Hey everybody, Father John from my coronavirus seclusion to your coronavirus seclusion, or to the beach if you're a little bit less responsible, probably a lot younger, but wherever you're at, I just wanted to send some words before I go over to St. Augustine for confessions. We do confessions every day, even though we don't do a public mass. I say a private mass, and then we have confessions daily from 6 to 7 a.m., and on weekends from 8 to 10 a.m. and from 6 to 7 p.m. on Sundays. And I wanted to get some words out because it is Laetare Sunday. It is Gaudete Sunday. And in a time of uncertainty, whether we're a worker or a student or a teacher, certainly we're in uncharted times of sickness and of change and of cancellations. And we're hanging out with a lot of people we typically don't hang out with, and all this causes anxiety and not so great feelings. And it's Laetare Sunday, it's Gaudete Sunday, it's Rejoicing Sunday. We're reminded of the joy of the Lord. It's when we use the rose vestments, which I suppose is probably like the Easter or Christmas in places like San Francisco, and we think about and talk about and live the joy of Christ in our lives, and we're reminded of that joy. We are joyful as human beings when we get stuff, when we attain things. When you have a burger, you rejoice. When you get a good grade, you rejoice. And when you have the presence of Christ in your life, you rejoice much more. Because the joy is correlative to what you achieve. You have a burger, and that's a great achievement, but that achievement lasts about 5 minutes, and then comes indigestion. There's joy there's happiness, but it's short-lived. And, there are more or less happinesses on the earth, and they're all good. But we're all made as human beings, since we are immortal and we know that, for joys that are never-ending. That's why when we have the joy of Christ in our lives, then we have an incredible joy. That's why Jesus Christ said in John 15, I have told you these things that my joy may be in you, and that your joy may be full. We can only have a full joy if that joy is an unending joy. And that doesn't mean that there are not going to be sufferings in our lives. Absolutely not. It's childish to present Christianity as something where everything's going to work out. Everything is absolutely not going to work out. But if we have sufferings, then plus Jesus in our lives, then we'll have an underlying joy that can never be, as Jesus said in John 15, that can never be taken from us. Whenever I think about joy, I think about the passage in The Lord of the Rings, when Pip is with Gandalf, and they just talk to Denethor, and Denethor is messing with Gandalf. He's talking to Pippin, and not with him. And the passage just shows that in this. So Gondor is falling, like Gondor is surrounded by enemies, the enemies are coming, everybody knows that, and Gandalf knows he's responsible in part for this, and Denethor is not cooperating, and just obviously a very anxious time. And it says during this exchange, or right after that, it says, are you angry with me, Gandalf? He said as their guide went out and closed the door, I did the best I could. You did indeed, said Gandalf, laughing suddenly, and he came and stood beside Pippin, putting his arm about the hobbit's shoulder, and gazing out the window. Pippin glanced in some wonder at the face now close beside his own, for the sound of that laugh had been gay and merry. Yet in the wizard's face he saw at first only lines of care and sorrow, though as he looked more intently he perceived that under all there was a great joy, a fountain of mirth enough to set a kingdom laughing, were it to gush forth. You have that joy, and the Lord of the Rings is always such a Catholic book. You have that joy when you have Jesus, when you have that which cannot be taken from you, and that which lasts forever. Now, it certainly is a challenge, and that's why days like today, we need to realize there's a challenge, because emotionally, many times we're distraught, and many times there's difficulty that's happening. When we have people who rely on us, and when we have everybody who relies to see Christians who are joyful and Christians who are peaceful, because we have Christ in our lives, and because we know that people need to see that in our lives, we need to be able to manage our own emotions, and that's not easy. That's why St. Paul many times tells us to be joyful, and he says it's almost a commandment to be joyful. In Philippians 4:4-7, he says, always be joyful then in the Lord. I repeat, be joyful. In 1 Thessalonians 5:16, he says, always be joyful, pray constantly, and for all things give thanks to God. In 2 Corinthians 13:11, for the rest, brethren, rejoice, be perfect, take exhortation, be of one mind, have peace. Because St. Paul knows, it's the beginning of the church. Everybody's persecuting them. The Romans are persecuting them. The established Jewish authorities are persecuting them. And he says, be joyful. And he wasn't oblivious to the fact of the problems that were going on, the difficulties. But he said, we have to manage our emotions. And the way that we manage our emotions is to force ourselves to focus on all the good things we have. We have an incredible amount of blessings. We have our faith, which is so incredible. Maybe think about it. The depth of the faith that we have in our current world and our current culture is incredible. We have our Lord in the Blessed Sacrament, which the church is open all day. St. Augustine is open all day. There are many churches open. We could go and pray before our Lord there. Our families are a blessing. Our loved one is a blessing. The country we live in is a blessing. And there's so many other things. We need to focus on those things, and especially our faith, especially Jesus in our lives. The devil wants to take away our joy. The devil wants to take away our joy because he knows that if we are not joyful, we cannot be present to other people. We cannot fulfill our vocations. We cannot have a good relationship with Jesus. How could we have a good relationship with Jesus if we don't recognize the incredible gift of our faith and of his presence in our lives? It's not going to be easy. And there's some times where emotionally we're going to be distraught. Nobody asks you to be, all happy-go-lucky when family member passes away, or when you have difficulty, you lose your job. But ultimately, if we have Christ in our lives, even in those darkest moments, we have an underlying joy that, as is said in the Lord of the Rings, could set a kingdom a laugh if it were to go forth. So, as we go forth in this crisis, as we go forth, just remember that as Christians, there's a lot to be thankful for. There's a lot to be joyful about. Many people are depending on us, our families, our friends, those around us, our coworkers, and the world. The world needs a joyful presence. The world needs people who have clarity of the gift of Christ in our lives. So rejoice today. Rejoice today. Laetare Sunday, Gaudete Sunday. We cannot be at Mass, but hopefully we made time to go to church, to spend time with Jesus. And during the upcoming weeks of Lent, continue to work on your faith, continue to be very diligent in whatever practices we have committed to. It's difficult to remember these things when the liturgy is reminding us about them, when our Sunday Mass and our daily Masses aren't reminding us about them. But it is still a liturgical time, a time of being in the desert, a time of purification, so that we cast out those things that are holding us back, that are holding us away from the joy of Christ. As always, I will be praying for you, and I'll be very present, have you very present in my daily Mass and in my prayers. Pray for the end of this crisis. No doubt it is very unprecedented, and we're called upon as Christians to pray for it. I'll be praying for you. Please pray for me. Please pray for the future of St. Augustine. Pray for the future of the Church, and pray for the future of the world. God bless all of you.